producer at TT Games, working on the Lego games. So from a day-to-day point of view, kind of working on helping the development team trying to create the games, also working with the licensors such as Lego, or say for example if we're working on Harry Potter, we work very closely with Harry Potter's agency, or DC for games like Batman. So when I was very young, I used to play games with my brother a lot of the time on consoles like the Spectrum and the Amiga, and then as I grew up I kind of like realised that you can actually get a job doing these type of things, and so I decided I wanted to kind of get into the games industry while I was still in education. So did my college course and my university course to try and kind of prompt in that direction, and then I was lucky enough I kind of applied for a job in the games industry, got a job as a tester, started off working in the QA departments, and then about a year later I joined TT Games.
I'm Jonathan Smith. I'm head of production at TT Games, where I've been working now for 10 years. We've been making the Lego games. That's my focus, and making sure that the teams and everyone that's involved make the right games at the right time. I was lucky enough that my father worked at a technical college. Before home computers, they had a computer club for the students there that I was able to come in as a very young boy and see television screens with keyboards attached to them going as terminals back to the mainframe that you could control. And the idea of controlling what was on television was incredibly exciting for a young boy. Then, because I was lucky enough to be the right age here in the United Kingdom, we were blessed with a computer made by Sir Clive Sinclair called the Sinclair ZX80, which you made yourself. And to be able to create from a box of wires and bits of plastic something which could play what back then seemed like the most amazing game, and of course now would be unrecognisable as just a series of flashing black and white objects, but really, it's a transforming experience for a young boy. And from then on, that's what I was always excited by. At Lego Company, we were working on new ideas for games that were essentially Lego in a novel way, that would give a new kind of fun to young players, that would be accessible and open, beautiful and surprising. And in order to execute on those ideas, we needed the world's most talented developers. The world's most talented developers, we happen to know, were at a company called Traveller's Tales in the northwest of England. They'd been working for many years on games primarily for the young audience, working with big licenses and with very well-known worldwide character brands for Disney and other companies as well. And they immediately understood what we were trying to achieve in Lego, and then in fact took those ideas to a new level. But quite early on in development, Lego Company wanted to focus on other areas of its business. And so together with our business partner Tom Stone and actually our senior producer Loz Doyle, we set up a company called Giant Interactive Entertainment as a publisher to continue to work with Traveller's Tales to finish and take to market Lego Star Wars. And that partnership through the process of development of Lego Star Wars felt great for both of us, and it was something we wanted to continue. So just after the release of Lego Star Wars, we put the two companies together to create TT Games as a force which would be an independent developer with a publishing arm, so we could be in control of the games that we wanted to make in every respect. It's a great privilege to work with the world's greatest company in the field of play. Lego Company, based in Denmark, a privately owned business that's been going for over 8 decades now, are the experts at giving children a wonderful time that develops their brains in a way that's incredibly fun. And for us to be able to draw upon those values as we came to make Lego games was incredibly energizing. It sparks so many new ideas. In the very first days of Lego Star Wars, well, yes, we were trying to build the levels out of Lego on the desks, to put the bricks together and sculpt the environments. It was a painstaking job that ultimately was better served by the very talented artists that we were working with, creating those digitally. But even still today, we have a team whose desks are covered with Lego bricks, and they physically build the great vehicles or the special robots, whatever amazing new objects we need to interact with within our games.
It's one of those things that everyone kind of always grows up with, and they get these Lego sets and be able to make and then kind of have their own style of play. We also get to do that in the gaming world, and it's really important that we have that side of the game, that involvement, being able to build creativity and being able to kind of mix and match what you can do. So that's kind of like where some of the key values that we have in our games. So for example, with the Lego that's in the world, the Lego pieces that you can actually rebuild some of the models that you would see in the gaming world out of actual Lego, and kind of having that connection between what you see in the gaming world and in the real world, and also in the kind of like gameplay modes as well. So when we do things like free play, being able to kind of take any characters that you've unlocked in the game and put them into different levels and different scenarios, it's the same sort of reaction that you can have with Lego. You can say, right, I'm now using these characters, but what would happen if Qui-Gon Jinn and, say, Darth Vader had a fight, who never meet in the stories of Star Wars, but in a Lego game you can do that. You can go, right, we're just going to go mix it up and have a lot of fun with it.
We've been privileged to be allowed to play in the universes of the world's favourite characters and stories. Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Harry Potter, Pirates of the Caribbean. These are wonderful places for us to let our imagination really run wild. And we are blessed with this opportunity because of the success that we've had in the past. We continue to cultivate that success in order to secure the best opportunities for the future, which means that with each new game, we have to really raise the bar in terms of the quality, in terms of what we're trying to achieve. We have to add new features, bring new surprises into that world. And so long as we keep on doing that, we'll continue to get the opportunity to play in these amazing places. Well, our starting point for LEGO Star Wars was the world that had been established by LEGO Company. They had already licensed from Star Wars the rights to create some characters and vehicles, initially using the old style yellow faces, and that's in fact where we started with LEGO Star Wars. Our first versions of the game had the characters with their yellow faces. We copied the designs for the vehicles that LEGO Company designers had created as well, because we wanted to be associated with their great work, and then we started to build our own as well, and then put them into a world where those characters could come alive as action game characters. That was, I think, was the impetus behind the game being fun, was to make it not just a world of toys, but a world of game characters who were there to run around in an exciting way, who fought in a cool way, who had exciting animations, great sound effects, good visuals around everything they did. They jumped, they leapt, they span, and that coming to life so vigorously really was sort of the engine behind the action of the game. LEGO Star Wars now seems like a brilliant idea. How could it have failed when it had the combination of two such successful brands, LEGO brand and Star Wars? And what could possibly have gone wrong? But at the time, when the team was creating those very first prototypes, and then as the development continued, and I and my partners were taking this game to show retailers, to show distributors, and often getting quite blank looks, not because what was on screen wasn't funny and exciting, but because it was so different to what else was already out there. And there wasn't a history of very successful LEGO games at the time. They were a toy thing. They were something to be merchandised, to be licensed off and put in the category of many other games made at the time for children that weren't really creatively interesting or fun in the long term. What we delivered in the end, through the work of the team, was a game that had accessibility and charm, and then great depth and surprise in it as well. And I think there were a few key features in LEGO Star Wars that, looking back again, were quite radical at the time. I think the idea that when you lose all your hearts, your main character falls to pieces and then momentarily comes back together again was actually quite shocking at the time. And now we take it for granted. It's just another fun way of playing, where the player isn't punished for experimenting. They're encouraged to fool around and see what happens and what's the worst that can happen. You lose a few studs, it doesn't matter. So ideas like that, like free play, where you could have multiple versions of the same character, taking characters from one movie and putting them in the story of a different movie, that's part of the freedom and permission that you get in the LEGO world that we all saw at the time. But it felt like a risk as we were making that game, because we didn't know whether anyone was going to like it or get it, or least of all, whether it was going to be commercially successful, because there is a long history of games that people were proud to make, that have got a certain charm, that perhaps a small audience appreciated, but that didn't really break through into the market. And so we had an uphill battle there, and as the success started to build, we really did breathe a sigh of relief. What we always wanted from the start was the best of both worlds. We wanted to have the emotional power, drama, authentic connection that fans have with the world of Star Wars, but also to play with it. Also to show it in a new light, to twist it a little bit, to perhaps shine a light on things that people hadn't seen before, that were already within it, and perhaps to introduce new things that people may be surprised to find in there, but in a Lego world are entirely fitting. And the team were able to achieve that by being very diligent and rigorous about authenticity. So it's very important that the sound that the lightsabers make when a Lego character turns them on is actually the authentic sound from the movies, as recorded by Skywalker Sound and implemented in the game very carefully. That the music is the music that you have that emotional connection with from the movies. But it's equally important that ridiculous things happen in the cutscenes, that we distill the narrative. And one of the early directions there was to tell these stories in Lego form without words. And that immediately gave us a fresh angle. So the stories, the action were drawn very closely from the movies, but the Lego way of telling them was fresh.
One of the interesting things is that when we kind of created Lego Batman, superheroes have always kind of been a bit of a tricky one to do in games, because people always have a kind of an indication of what these characters are meant to be like and kind of their strengths, their weaknesses, and that can be difficult to kind of get into a world of gaming mechanics, because sometimes you get characters which are very difficult to use. They might not necessarily have something which lends itself very well to gameplay. So what was great for us is that Lego games and Lego gameplay allows us to kind of do things differently. So when we have characters like Batman, like Robin, they're kind of like they are these heroes, and then we get to go, right, how does Batman's gadgets work in a Lego world? So how does the Batarang work? How can we kind of give this idea that Batman's this guy, all these great tech gadgets? And so we adapt the gameplay and the mechanics and the design to say, okay, let's play up on these features. And I think that was one of the great things we get to do with Lego games. We get to kind of twist things and say, right, this is the different version of this world. This is the Lego version of this world.
What we're always trying to do is to edit and to focus. And in a Lego world, we distill. So superheroes like Batman, I mean, there are no superheroes quite like Batman, but superheroes in general have got very rich backstories. They've been seen in many, many different contexts, in many, many different stories over such a long period of time. They've got so many different gadgets and powers and abilities and adversaries and particular sets of circumstances under which they're known to behave in certain ways. That's quite a burden if you're going to make a game about that character. When we're making a Lego game, we edit and we focus, and we're going to pick out the fact that Batman is a wonderful fighter. And we're going to make Lego Batman have a fighting system in a Lego world, which is just really brilliant fun. That then becomes the focus. And then his gadgets and his tech and his Batmobile fit beneath that as a second layer. But there's a whole layer underneath that of detail that we just don't need to do. We've already made Lego Batman with a focus as fun as he could possibly be.
So when we were looking to make Lego Harry Potter, we really wanted to make sure that we could have a game that really kind of captured the magic and the essence of what Harry Potter world was about. And so we were really trying to push the mechanics, and the team did a brilliant job of kind of adding things that were specifically for Harry Potter. So for example, the way that you could interact with the Lego in the world, we wanted to do things such as being able to move the Lego and have more control over where you place it within the world. So for example, we had this kind of like Lego blocks that you could pick up and move around using Leviosa and put down wherever you wanted to kind of build your own platforms, build your own way through the level. And that was really kind of important for the Harry Potter experience.
Well, something that's very important about the world of Harry Potter is that our heroes go on a journey across many years. So one of the key things that was new for the first Lego Harry Potter game was that our character would attend lessons and learn and grow and gain new abilities. In our previous Lego games, you'd got new characters. That's how you were introduced to new abilities. In Lego Harry Potter, Harry, Ron and Hermione would get new abilities themselves. They would ping in and they'd go, oh, I have a new ability. Now I can do more things in this world of Hogwarts and access more areas of the story. So progression from year to year was very important for the gameplay of Lego Harry Potter. At the same time, we wanted to get in all the detail of the world. It's such a rich, colourful, surprising world. I mean, one of the deepest, most engrossing universes that exist in fiction. So while we might have thought at the start, let's tell the whole epic story of Harry Potter across all 7 years, it was just too much to fit into one game. So we made 2 games. Lego Harry Potter years 1 to 4, and then Lego Harry Potter years 5 to 7. And there's a natural break point, as sort of the turning point, as it becomes more of a crisis that reaches beyond Hogwarts and takes you outside of the safe environment into much more dangerous places. What we found in all our stories is that the darker our source material gets, the funnier its treatment in Lego becomes. The very second cutscene that was ever test produced by the team for Lego Star Wars to push this as far as it could go was from Episode 1, Star Wars Episode 1, the death of Qui-Gon Jinn. He's actually stabbed with a lightsaber by Darth Maul, and then Darth Maul in turn is cut in half. It's sort of very it's a very dark scene. There's lots of death. Obi-Wan mourns Qui-Gon Jinn. We made that in Lego after the very first scene, which was just a lightsaber fight against robots, to see what this felt like. And the answer was, in Lego, it's just funny. It's ridiculous. It's made safe in Lego. When you're focused on the development of a game project, you are looking very short term at the deliverables for this week, at the milestones for next month, at the bugs that you've got to fix today. And so the question of archiving isn't in your mind when you're actually building something. Every now and then, something that you're particularly proud of might get put in a bottom drawer. But will it last 5 years? Will it be there 10 years? Will it last a generation even? Probably not. So the work that's being done across the world by various different groups now to make an archive of video games is going to be very important, because anyone who works on games believes that there are stories that we're telling now and there are things that we're doing in the way we go about making these games that people will need to learn from, because they're going to continue to be important in culture.